And my message to all of you who are tricked into being here, guess what? Your Medicaid benefits aren't at risk under this bill. Full stop. They're using you and they're lying to you. Notice how...
Mr. Chairman,
just
take it down. You need to educate your member. Come on.
Take my words down.
Well, don't.
I just want to point out one last thing.
Can you suspend? We agree we're not going to call each other out in debate or use
Not that many
lies, so
synonyms
please
for the
honor
term
that.
lying.
Mr. Chairman,
back.
you've already warned him. You need to take his words
If I
down.
could roll
You already
two
warned
eyes,
him.
I would.
He did it again. You need to take his words down. I would like to get a
committee will
parliamentary
suspend.
ruling on this. He's being a
I
jerk.
withdraw the word lying. Yeah.
I think this is crazy to me. You can walk into a hearing and point at all of your Republican colleagues and say, you are all trying to kill thousands of poor people. And you can't suggest that that is a lie. And when they walk out of that markup room, Democrats will run to the nearest microphone and say, you should have heard what these Nazi racist bigots were saying in that room. It was unbelievable. They are going to kill every last woman and child who makes, who is on Medicaid right now because they're going to take their health care away. And saying it's a lie is the problem?
All right, guys, good Thursday to you. I'm excited. A lot of action happening on that Trump overseas trip. He is now in the final stop at U.A.E. J.D. Vance announcing that he's going to the Pope's first Mass this weekend. If you're looking for someone to come with you, Mr. Vice President, I know there's a couple extra seats, but apparently Marco Rubio's also going. So anyway, I'm not really sure if you can do a +1. But I wanted to let you know. Anyway, big show tomorrow. Stephen K. Bannon is coming up, and I'm just going to give you a little insight. Aside from all things like worldly that are happening, a lot of rumors about 2028, President Trump running, and someone told me the other day that Stephen K. Bannon may run. So just putting that out there now. I'm going to ask it. Anyway, an amazing panel headed your way. Before I get that, one person who's not on the panel, but is a great friend, a great supporter of the show, doing great work. My buddy, your friend, you've heard about him before, Leo Grillo of Delta Rescue. Delta Rescue all started when Leo rescued one Doberman. He named the dog Delta after dedication and everlasting love to animals. It began what became a huge voyage for Delta Rescue. If you go to the website, deltarescue.org, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Dogs, cats, horses, animals of all stripes and sizes that have been mistreated, abused, abandoned, and Leo takes care of them for life. That's right. Delta Rescue is the world's largest no-kill sanctuary, not a shelter, not a place looking to rehome animals. No, he takes care of everything. And he does it without USAID grants or Politico Pro subscriptions. It's all based on donations from people like me and you. And yes, I have taken my own money and made a contribution to Delta Rescue because I believe in what Leo Grillo and the folks at Delta Rescue are doing. So go to deltarescue.org, take a look at the video, see what I'm talking about. Please consider a contribution, and more importantly, go to that estate planning kit. You'll see it at the top. Pull that menu down, download it, think about it, pray on it. Know that I really would like to see Delta Rescue continue for generations. So talk to your tax professional about an old 401k or stock that you might have sitting around that could be helpful to make that mission enduring. All right. I tell you this all the time. Part of a journey on wellness is having a great night's sleep. You cannot really be fully well if you're not getting good quality sleep. And I have made that part of my journey. I literally cannot end my night without Beam's Dream Powder. I crushed these bags. This is the cinnamon cocoa flavor. Last night I took the brownie. I will admit it. They're all great. It's literally like a last night and end of the day dessert. It tastes that good. And I'm not kidding. Whatever flavor you choose, it doesn't matter, because it's not just the taste. It's got everything in it that you've probably tried before if you want to get to sleep. Magnesium, melatonin, reishi, apigenin, L-theanine, all in one amazing drink. You go to sleep, you stay asleep, and I wake up raring to go. This is a total game changer. If you are someone that is struggling with getting to sleep or getting a good night's sleep, trust me when I tell you Beam's Dream Powder is a total game changer. My focus and energy comes back. I travel with this stuff now because it is such an integral part of my night. Here's the best deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of 40% off. Where else are you going to get that? Donald Trump making big deals overseas. Beam making it happen for you right here. Make Beam's Dream Powder part of your routine. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer for 40% off. That's shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer, 40% off. Support a great American company and invest in yourself with Beam. Shopbeam.com YouTube.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce our all-star guest, Bradley Devlin, the political editor over there at the Daily Signal. Our friend up north, Patriots schedule just announced yesterday. Grace Curley coming in, covering it all for us all year long from Boston, host of the Grace Curley Show, Grace Curley, and our fill-in for the day when a bunch of people dropped out, the host of WMAL's Morning on the Mall with Vince Collin. Oh no, it's not
that show's been
and the
canceled
amazing
for
host
years.
on Town Hall of what is it, Larry Live? It's Larry.
It's Larry. It's my name. It's Larry. Just think of the cucumber.
Can you imagine the folks at Town Hall when they're like, "What are you going to call the show?" And you're just like, Larry.
Yeah, they kind of phoned it in. Actually, they named it, and I was kind of embarrassed at the lack of creativity. I'm not going to lie, Sean.
Yeah. They were like, it could be Larry. No, not Larry O'Connor show, just Larry. All right. Well, look, I'm not going to grade your show, but I do want to grade the Saudi trip. Just let's go around. Like, give me a grade. What do you think? I've said this. I've made my views known. But Grace Curley, I'll start with you. What grade do you give the White House for their first big overseas trip?
I would say, what grade? I would say a B+, A-. I think it's going really well.
I don't want to take Grace Curley's class ever. Bradley Devlin, are you a better grader than Grace Curley?
I might be a bit of a better grader. I think this was a strong A-.
I said B+, A-.
I get that, but why? I don't understand. Like, I'm thinking, and again, I'll admit my bias. Larry O'Connor, do I want to take your class or not?
Yeah, well, in my school, you get two different grades. You get style, imagery, visual impact, A+ all the way. This was an incredible in terms of American power and exuding American internationalism in a region where we've always had trouble. However, I think the reason why my colleagues here are a little reticent is we want to see some of the substance here with regard to the details. He seemed a little too open to the idea of making a deal with Iran. You can't make a deal with Iran. They want to murder
I agree with you
us.
On that. Right.
So that's why we're a little hesitant here.
Okay, I said this on X. Biden went to Saudi and got a fist bump. Trump goes to Saudi and gets hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And I'm with you. Like, I'm not a supporter of trying to get any kind of deal ever, full stop, with Iran. Okay. So I can quibble with some of this, but when I look at a guy who goes overseas, outlines an America first foreign policy, talks about how they're going to make deal, again, I don't agree with it, but I think substantively trying to get a deal with Iran, talking about how he's going to re-engage with Syria. I go, hey, you know what? Again, there's days when I wrote papers in college where the teacher would say, I don't agree with the premise, but I think you laid it out well, A+. That was just me, though. Grace, why an A-?
I think exactly what Larry just said. It really has nothing to do with Trump or his vision. I actually really appreciate the fact that, and I read something today in the New York Post about this, his vision is less ideology. It's less about his ideology. And that's, I think, what you get a lot when you send presidents over to the Middle East and they want to talk about all of these ideals that we have here in the United States. And actually, it was more from a business perspective. It was more about investments in the United States. It was more about deals that we could make. And so all of that's wonderful. I just don't trust a lot of the actors that we're dealing with. So that, I guess, maybe as a teacher, you might say, well, that's not my problem. That's not fair that I'm grading Trump based off of that. But like Larry said, some of it's just wait and see. Some of it sounds really great, but like, forgive me if I'm a little skeptical. I do love, though, I will say, I love how Trump comes at things from a very optimistic standpoint, because I'm kind of the same way. I love that he has these big ideas and he really thinks that the best things could happen. So that is an A for me, but it's the other people involved. There's a lot of risk factors here, and there's a lot of, it's a delicate dance.
I agree with Grace, and I think it's refreshing to see Trump. I believe him when he sits with these Arab countries and say, why are y'all killing each other? We can work together, we can do business, we can be prosperous, and we can build beautiful buildings here. Look at what you've already done. I think that's great. The problem is, and I think President Trump knows this, Iran doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about, they don't care about commerce. They don't care about building businesses. They care about wiping the great Satan off the map. That would be us and our great ally, Israel. And so when it sounds like he's open to making a deal with people who you can't make a deal with, forgive us for quibbling, as you put it, Sean, but that's a pretty big quibble.
Bradley Devlin, you gave her, you were a tough grader too. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't think I was a tough grader. An A- is still a pretty darn good grade. It means outstanding.
Not in the Spicer household.
Better than I ever got.
Listen, I know some of you Ivy folks are used to this incredible grade inflation that we have these days, but I went to a public school, and getting an A- is a pretty darn good thing to do at a big old state school. This is not about the Iranians for me. It's not about the Israelis for me. It's not even about the Qataris for me. The reason that I give it an A- is because I'm not sure if the Syria Gamble is going to work out. That is the biggest thing for me. Meeting with al-Shara, now that he's calling himself, now after going by al-Jilani, being a break-off group.
By the way, that's right, by the way, for a perfect Trump thing. I always knew him as al-Shara, and now he's al-Shara.
He wasn't al-Shara until he stopped being called al-Jilani.
It's a charade.
That is the biggest gamble for me. There's a lot of bad players in Syria to this day.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have the Turks involved in any sort of future discussions about what happened with the state of Syria. I think, of course, the Israelis are going to be intimately involved there. I think a balance act, a prudent, pragmatic approach that can reduce Iranian influence and Russian influence in the area is a good thing. I don't know if that's going to come about by meeting with al-Shara and then lifting sanctions. I'm not even certain that sanctions necessarily work. I think it could work for a Syrian government that's been in shambles. Maybe the Bashar al-Assad regime that was very insulated from these types of sanctions. Maybe that network effect, that knowledge has gone away, and this is kind of a new era. If we were to keep sanctions on Syria, maybe they would have more of an economic effect, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about the Qataris for me. The Qataris, listen, they built us a giant air base in the Middle East. We've run operations out of there since the 90s. They were an important helper in the Gulf War in the early 90s. They approach Islamists differently than the Saudis, but they also approach their domestic problems with Islam very different than the Saudis. And at the same time, the Qataris are less than 500 miles away from Iran. And on that coast of Iran, you have the nuclear facilities, which if you had a devastating attack on these nuclear facilities, it could really harm Qatar's water supply. So Qatar's in the middle of a bad neighborhood and a bad spot. I think a lot of people condemning the Trump administration for working with Qatar should have taken a really close look at what the Biden administration and other administrations before Trump were doing with respect to Qatar. Qatar is a major non-NATO ally. Qatar has vested a lot of its credibility on its ability to be a negotiator and a mediator in these spaces. And I think President Trump recognizes their utility in that. Does that mean that they are a perfect country? No, not at all. It's a very bad neighborhood. You have to deal with a lot of unsavory characters. But I don't think the Iranian nuclear deal is why he potentially gets a lower grade. I think it mostly has to do with Syria, which could become, as we've already seen with the murder of thousands of people in religious minorities, it could become an open dumpster fire, and we could be subsidizing it if we don't approach this pragmatically.
I think, you mentioned Qatar, and a lot of the headlines came out of this plane that the president was so far gifted. Hillary Clinton apparently wasn't happy about this grade. She tweeted out that no one gives someone a $400 million jet for free without expecting nothing in return. And then someone went ahead and did this just to clap back at her, as the kids say. Take a look.
There's no question the Clinton Foundation has received tens of millions of dollars from foreign governments. That includes Saudi Arabia, which gave $14.5 million. Well, the foundation says none of that came while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. But you also have Kuwait donating between $5 and $10 million, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all donating between $1 and $5 million over the years. Even the Embassy of Algeria donated $500,000. Is there a common thread? All, of course, are Middle Eastern countries with poor human rights records and poor records when it comes to women's rights.
Okay, so Grace, it's just funny. It's like, dude, people in glass houses should not throw stones. The difference is that money was given to the Clinton Foundation, to their private foundation that they grift off of. What Trump is doing is getting a plane for the United States, despite what the media will tell you, that this is a gift to the Department of Defense and then ultimately to his library, which is also run, by the way, by NARA, the National Administration and Records, or the National Archives and Record Administration, and another government entity as well. So it's interesting that Hillary Clinton chose to stick her neck out on this one.
Yeah, that's my only request from some of these people is like, I can understand hesitancy when it comes to Qatar, unsavory characters, not perfect country, and all of that. But to have people who have been accepting money or, going to these swanky DC fundraisers all put on. I mean, the White House Correspondents Association had like a dinner 2 weeks ago that was funded by Qatar, or at least some member of the Qatari government. It's so hypocritical. And I know that there is this push when you bring that up where people will say, well, that's just whataboutism. You're just, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, I'm willing to hear valid arguments about why people are concerned about this plane. I'm not willing to hear it from people who have lined their own pockets with these bribes. And Charles Gasparino pointed this out, and I was thinking the same thing. You can say what you want about this and you can have issues with it. And I actually have some issues with it. But one of the refreshing aspects of this compared to the Biden administration, compared to the Clinton Foundation, is that this is all out in the open. Like, we're having these discussions. I mean, CNN is obsessed with this. It's all they're talking about. So it's not like there's not enough eyeballs on this thing that if there's something shady going on, or if Trump's going to run away with the plane at the end of his 4 years, we're not going to know about it. So that's actually a positive in Trump's column. But and one other thing I'll say, Sean, is that I don't often find myself as a Massachusetts constituent here agreeing with Seth Moulton, but he was on CNN and he was talking about this. And he brought up the fact that, there is a legitimate conversation to be had about Boeing and about why we're dealing with all these archaic planes and why people don't feel safe on planes, and how maybe that's something Congress could fix, as opposed to, and he didn't say this, but I will, these grandstanding politicians who now want to run a flag over Mar-a-Lago, a big banner saying cut a Lago. I don't know how it would be pronounced. That kind of stuff. It just doesn't feel good faith to me. It doesn't feel like you have legitimate arguments. It feels like it's all political. So there's a big conversation to be had here. I just don't think it's the one that the left wants to have.
Grace,
and if there were a bigger conversation, I'm sorry to jump in here, but if there were a bigger conversation to be had, Congress has the power to enforce the emoluments clause provisions. They don't. CNN journalists freaking out about the gift of the plane. Has Manu Raju been asking House Speaker Mike Johnson or any member of Congress whether or not they're actually going to fulfill their duties under the emolument clause? Of course not, because they've been derelict on those duties for 40 freaking years. President Lincoln accepted a herd of elephants from the future nation of Thailand. Nixon accepts $63 million in pandas from the Chinese. The Resolute Desk, another one of these gifts. That is when the Congress was actually doing their jobs vis-a-vis the emolument clause. You come here and you say you're presented with a gift and you raise all these concerns. Well, then do your job. Yeah. Do your job if that's your problem with it. And anyone saying that this constitutes a bribe, when I see that $400 million plane used as leverage or collateral in another stupid lawsuit brought by Letitia James over President Donald Trump's holdings, then I will say, okay, maybe this starts to look a little bit more like a bribe. Until then, do your jobs.
Bradley, people are going to be shocked when they find out where those beautiful cherry trees came from, where we have our cherry blossom festival every year.
That's exactly right.
Sean, is there something wrong with me? Because I cannot get myself exercise. Oh, thank you. I can't get myself upset about this story. And I know that but the media has been so focused on it, but I don't get it. What's the big scandal?
Look, I want to show you guys something. I mean, Bradley mentioned he name-checked CNN. Kevin O'Leary was actually on one of their faux roundtables last night. And I think he made the point that you guys are making, Larry. Take a look at this, and then because you brought up cherry trees and other gifts. Take a look. This is Kevin O'Leary.
The United States Constitution would like to have a word. That's why people care, right?
People care
because the reason that that's in the Constitution is to prevent the President of the United States from accepting things that are being perceived as bribes.
What is the national
The goal of the trip is not to get a giant gift that he can say belongs to him as president, but then he takes with him when he leaves the office.
Abby, you have to distance yourself from Trump derangement syndrome. It's irrelevant to policy. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
what matters
Kevin,
is, why are all these AI guys on this trip?
Have you heard of the emoluments clause?
Wait. Why do you have all the leaders?
Kevin, no, seriously, it's a serious question. Have you heard of the emoluments clause? Do you understand that that is in the Constitution?
He doesn't. No.
And do you understand that even if you think that maybe it might be okay,
how many fairies dance on a pin does not do policy.
Incredibly dubious.
So let me ask you a question.
That, right?
But look, Larry, the broader point that you guys are touching on, and Kevin, is that like, what's the point of the trip? The point of the trip is to go over and get stuff for the U.S. That's so if you want to start talking about a plane, and I think Bradley mentioned this, Grace, it's like, dude, whether it's cherry trees, the Statue of Liberty, a bunch of foreign direct investment, our goal is to get stuff. And I get the plane probably doesn't look, but it's not like they're trying to make this seem like he's taking a plane on the side, putting it in his pocket and walking away like he stole it at dinner. This is a gift to the United States, and we get gifts all the time. I think that, anyway, I just think that O'Leary's point is so spot on, which is, what do all the other investment that he's getting, why isn't that a bribe? Why isn't when he says Saudi Arabia is going to buy 38 Boeing jets or buy this military equipment? So what's different?
Right. No, there's nothing different. And it's they are obsessed, and it's great because, listen, every time I see a segment like that, Sean, I realize how all four of us have our own streaming shows that we're going direct to the consumer with, and Abby Phillips and CNN do our job for us by drawing an audience to us, because that was the most inane conversation that I think that anybody has ever engaged in primetime television, and that's saying something. If you're really looking for a scandal here, as Grace pointed out, the scandal is that Boeing cannot deliver the plane that they just got paid hundreds of millions of dollars to deliver. They can't do it on time. They want more money, and they want to extend it another 5 years. The original Air Force One was ordered by, or not the original, but the one that we're using right now, was ordered by Reagan in, I believe, 96, and it was delivered to George Herbert Walker Bush within 4 years, and it's still in service. What the hell happened to that Boeing? That's
by the way,
scandal.
I was with President Trump when we ordered the other two in his first term. I mean, the idea, I just don't understand. Here's my thing, and I don't mean to but to your point about Boeing, right? If the president of the United States and the U.S. government orders two planes, I got to think that they go, okay, guys, we got to hustle. We got to get these planes. We got to get them ready. We got to, what else? To me, that would kind of be a priority.
That's not the business they're in anymore.
Yeah, I know. I do want to talk, because I want to get to this CNN cover-up book that they're promoting. But before I do that, I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill. Because there was this, all these committees, the House Ways and Means Committee, the Agriculture Committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee, are the stars, if you will, committees of the first iteration of getting this bill moving forward. And Energy and Commerce had this epic markup, because they're responsible for a big chunk of the savings that they're supposed to find. Dan Crenshaw, though, they were there 15 hours, 16 hours, whatever it was. Dan Crenshaw has this epic moment. And there's a line in here that I want you to hear, because you kind of miss it, but he says, if I could roll two eyes, I would, because if you're not familiar, Dan Crenshaw doesn't have two working eyes. But take a look at this clip to me, because I thought it was so epic about how Congress is working for us.
If I could roll two eyes, I would. We're not here to cut the Medicaid lifeline for the neediest Americans. It's just a lie. And here's a basic principle.
We decided we weren't going to say lies, so.
We would like to take the words down.
Take my words down. I didn't say any of you were liars. I said it is a lie.
Mr. Chair, I thought we said we were not going to use
hey, stop interrupting me. I reclaim my time.
Mr. Green, we decided not to use the word lie, so we're not going to use that word.
Lie is a common word in the English language, and it's okay. It is a falsehood perpetuated by people who perpetuate falsehoods. And my message to all of you who are tricked into being here, guess what? Your Medicaid benefits aren't at risk under this bill. Full stop. They're using you, and they're lying to you. Notice how...
Mr. Chairman, take it down. You need to educate your member. Come on.
Take my words down.
Well, don't.
I just want to point out one last thing.
Can you suspend? we agree we're not going to call each other out in debate or use
Not
the
that
word
many
lie, so
synonyms
please
for the
honor
term
that.
lying.
Please
We
honor
should
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
bring it back.
you've already
He's
warned
respecting
him.
your
You need
chair.
to take his
If
words
I could
down.
roll
You already
two
warned
eyes,
him.
I would.
we're
He
not-
did it again. You
him
need to
down.
take his words down. I would
The
like to get
committee
a
will
parliamentarian
suspend.
ruling on this. He's being a
I
jerk.
withdraw the word lying. You happy?
Larry, I literally felt like I was watching a bunch of school kids. Like, you can't use the word liar, even though we're
agreed
lying.
not to use that word. We had an agreement.
Mr. Chairman, you called. And I think the funny part is Crenshaw's right. He's like, I didn't call you a liar. They've clearly, it was funny because he said it's a lie.
Yeah.
And whoever that Democratic member is, clearly feels like you must be talking about me. I'm the one who perpetuates that lie. So it's got to be me.
Right. Yeah, no, it is a perfect example of what's broken on Capitol Hill. And yeah, I mean, listen, these marathon sessions bring out the worst in these lawmakers, but that's sort of the nature of the beast when you're doing a giant reconciliation bill like this. And there's a great way for Democrats not to be called liars. Stop lying.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's Elon's point on this? That it's always the fraudster that makes the most noise. This is exactly what's happening here. She's noticing that she's being caught in the lie. I think this is crazy to me. You can walk into a hearing and point at all of your Republican colleagues and say, you are all trying to kill thousands of poor people. You're trying to kill grandma. And you can't suggest that that is a lie. Right. And when they walk out of that markup room, Democrats will run to the nearest microphone and say, you should have heard what these Nazi racist bigots were saying in that room. It was unbelievable. They are going to kill every last women and child who makes, who is on Medicaid right now because they're going to take their health care away. And saying it's a lie is the problem?
Yeah, he's right. I mean, it's funny. And you're right. They're going to run out and then use that word in the cameras. But I got to tell you, I want to just for 1 second take a pause and tell you, I start my day always. I try to have a good cup of coffee. And I am so excited because one of the coolest things that I've added into my morning routine is Wired to Fish coffee. It is amazing coffee. I'm a big fan. This is the medium roast. I'm a medium roast kind of guy. I got to be honest with you. I know some people want to go with the harsher flavors. That's fine. Wired to Fish has it all. But I love the company not because it's just not just a great cup of coffee, which it is. And if you go to wiredtofishcoffee.com and it's the numeral 2, you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is a company that is so cool because it's the product's great, but then the values of the company aligned. They love Jesus, fishing, and coffee. And I think in that order, if you go to wiredtofishcoffee.com, you'll see what I'm talking about. These guys love a great product. They love going out fishing and they love to spread their faith. And they give 25% of all profits back to faith-based initiatives, clean water initiatives, which makes me feel good knowing that when I spend my money, and I do, to buy Wired to Fish coffee, that I know that I'm not giving it to some woke corporation with woke values that's undermining everything that I think about it. So align your purchases with your values. Go to wiredtofishcoffee.com. And the cool part is if you're a big coffee drinker, not only do they have those 2-pound bags, but they now have the more economical 5-pound bags. So you're good to go. And don't forget, if you use code WeCare, one word, just WeCare, you can get 10% off your first order. Just go to wiredtofishcoffee.com right now. Make 2025 the year you align your coffee with your values. All right, Grace, J.D. Vance this weekend announced, as I said at the top, he's going to the first mass of the Pope in the Vatican. It's a good thing, though, because Sunny Hoston over at The View has given her stamp of approval on the Pope. Now, here's the thing, Grace. When initially Pope Leo was chosen, Sunny Hoston was very concerned about the Pope's policy views, particularly when it came to the Catholic Church's teaching on homosexuality. But fear not, Sunny Hoston has flipped on her view of the Pope because, well, it's not policy reasons. Take a listen to why.
There's one other thing that's also very interesting to me because President Trump, as you remember, called Haiti a certain type of country. As it turns out, our new American Pope has Haitian and Black roots. So we actually have a Black Pope. Apparently, it's like chef's kiss for me. So apparently, both of his maternal grandparents are described as Black, Haitian, or mulatto in several census documents. And on their marriage license, the grandfather's birth place is Haiti, listed as Haiti. Her birthplace is listed as born in New Orleans. They were identified as people of color.
So, Grace, let me just stop her there because I've heard enough from Sunny. But it's amazing how her initial concerns about the policies of the Catholic Church were a real hurdle for her to get over. But now suddenly that because we've done his genealogy, it's okay that she can completely now give us the seal of approval, which she calls the kiss, because, well, he has Haitian roots.
As long as he's not white. I mean, this is, to me, it's reminding me of this flip you've seen with the panelists on CNN and these loudmouth Democrats about the refugees coming in from South Africa. It's like the only thing that could make them anti-immigrant or anti-refugee is when the refugees come in and they're white people with American flags. It's this real anti-white kind of mentality. And the fact that this is the only thing that can get her excited. And actually, I think it's a larger conversation because I noticed this when the Pope was chosen on both sides of the aisle. Everyone was so quick, including Sunny, as you mentioned, to find things that they didn't like, or, oh, he doesn't support gay marriage, or he said this thing about J.D. Vance 5 years ago. And it's like sometimes in life, it's okay to be happy for 15 seconds and say, this is really cool. This is an American Pope. We've never had this before. We're watching history be made. People get so obsessed with their politics and with their agenda that they lose all sense of perspective. It's like, just take a breather. I was getting so frustrated because I'm doing my show and I said, oh my God, he's 69 years old. He's from Chicago. He's a Villanova grad. My sister went to Villanova. And immediately I'm getting texts. Do you know what he said about Trump? I'm like, you know what, Sean? This is what people don't realize. And I know this isn't about Sunny anymore, but some of the people out there who get so offended on behalf of Trump, I'm like, Trump's not a big baby. Trump is kind of actually able to dish it out and he's able to take it. And if he's able to come up with a statement and say, this is awesome, so excited for him, maybe down the line they're going to fight. But like, if he's able to enjoy the moment, you should be able to too. Don't let your politics make you so offended by everything. And it applies to Sunny, but it also applies to the right.
Yeah. The Pope is neither woke nor MAGA. He's Catholic. Everybody chill out for a minute. But this thing from Sunny Hoston, this obsession with ethnicity and the percentage of racial blood identity you've got. I mean, I hate to go there, but this would fit in just perfectly in the Third Reich era of Germany. It's gross and it's disgusting. And please, nobody tell Sunny Hoston that, number one, every single very conservative, very traditional Catholic in America who opposes everything Sunny Hoston believes, we actually all wanted an African cardinal, Cardinal Sarah, to be the Pope. We were hoping and praying for that. That said, I'm very excited about Pope Leo XIV. It's terrific. It's wonderful. And nobody tells Sunny Hoston about St. Augustine because he was an African Pope, too.
By the way,
pretty good guy.
Bradley, the thing that's interesting to me is it's like an ABC thing. I mean, to Grace's point, like ABC couldn't get over how they wanted to utilize this Pope as like a political cudgel. This is Martha Raddatz talking about how Trump factoring Trump right in right away. I mean, it was unbelievable. Take a look.
Pope Francis cared so much about the poor and migrants. Pope Leo does as well. In some ways, will he be a counterbalance for what's happening in American politics right now and President Trump? Pope Francis indirectly rebuked President Trump's policy, especially on immigration. And Pope Leo, before he was Pope, he retweeted some things about immigration and saying, retweeting that he supported the Dreamers, things like that. Do you think that will be an incredibly strong message for him? I mean, he does have the odor of sheep, as you say. And Terry and Liz, do you think he will serve in some ways as a counter to President Trump on those policies?
All right, Bradley, I don't need to hear Terry Moran because I just don't care what he has to say. And he's wrong. But also, to me, it's amazing. Like she couldn't enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Couldn't just talk about the American who got elected Pope. It was immediately, how do we make this a Trump thing?
Yeah, I've been trying to warn people, particularly my friends on the right, but it goes without saying for the left, that trying to reduce the Pope to the right-left political dynamic in the United States is probably the dumbest possible thing that you could do with a new pontificate. A Pope is chosen on 20 different metrics. Most of those metrics are beyond human understanding and come from the supernatural world. But 3 of those metrics are probably having to do with being Italian or how well you speak Italian. So all of this shoehorning into the right-left dynamic is not going to help you understand what this new pontificate is trying to do and the relationship that it will form with the most powerful government in the world. It's fine to have conflict or disagreement between spiritual leaders and leaders of nation states. That's going to be expected. But this idea of counterbalancing, as if Pope Leo XIV is going to use his station as an alternative or shadow government to the United States, I think is insane. I think it's insulting to Pope Leo XIV. I think it's insulting to the American people who have no say in that vote. And basically, you're telling the American people that we can't trust you with your own votes. And for that reason, I think you're going to see a good relationship form between this new pontificate, Pope Leo XIV, and President Trump and JD Vance. I think it's exciting that JD is going there this weekend to see this mass, to participate in this mass, and hopefully to be able to meet with this new pope and celebrate the fact that what was thought impossible because of, frankly, some bigotry in the church for American Catholics has been turned on its head. And a lot of people saying that the Vatican did this in order to provide a counterbalance is so ridiculous, because guess what? The Vatican comms shop is not ready for the media scrutiny and the fights with President Trump if they come. They have enough on their plate as is, namely the persecution of Christians around the world, and the financial problems that the Catholic Church is facing, and the spiritual well-being of the people, the 1 billion people who call themselves Catholics.
Right. All right. I waited to the end, but it's now time to talk about this ridiculous grift from CNN. And I can tell by the cheers you're ready to go.
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know where to start, but I will start with somewhere that we played this clip on the morning meeting. There's a guy named Rufus Gifford. He was on Mark Halperin's show last night, and Mark played the clip on the morning meeting today. I want to play this to you. So one of the big reveals, or whatever you want to call it, in this ridiculous book is that George Clooney says, President Biden didn't recognize me at the thing. And so that's supposedly the big reveal. But this is Rufus Gifford. He was the finance guy for that campaign. He was one of the 8 people in the room. Here's him explaining how that went down on Halperin's show last night. Take a look.
The 2 finance directors, I was the finance chair, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and then like the presidential aides. The way, and then President Obama and President Biden, who walked in together.
Right. So
what happens here is this: like George and Julia were standing in front. I was literally right there. George and Julia standing right in front of the curtains that get ready to just like take photos that they always do, because as the presidents walk in, and then the advance guy comes in and says to President Biden and President Obama, President Biden, see George Clooney and Julia Roberts, and It was, I will say this, when I read this in the book, I was like, this did never happen. Now, I will tell you this, I am not defending the president's performance in that event. He was out of it. There is zero doubt about it. It had been a brutal, and I'm not defending, like, my brain is doing somersaults, and has been for the last 8 months on this very topic, because I was certainly not with him every day, but I was with him a lot. And this whole thing is very hard for someone like me. I can guarantee you there was no cover up on my part, but I wish I had a better sense of everything that was going on than what I actually said. But I do read some of this stuff like that's in the Thompson Tapper book, and I'm like, guys, this is so salacious and ridiculous, and no one was there, so no one's gonna deny it. And it's just crazy to me. But that being said,
but hold on. I just want to clarify something. You were there, and you were standing right there. You weren't over on the side of the room, and you can say without fear of any contradiction, and you remember clearly, the president did not not know. He knew who George Clooney was.
It's like not knowing who someone is in the photo line. You're introduced to them. So you're saying, Mr. President, George, this is your host, George Clooney and Julia Roberts. And he walks
But you heard the person say that.
Yeah, he's an advanced guy.
Okay. So Grace, just so we're clear, two things can be true at once. We know that Biden was cognitively declining. That's unequivocal. But Tapper, they interviewed Rufus Gifford. They knew that he was standing there and said that didn't happen on the record. And they chose not to use it because Jake Tapper, this is where this whole dynamic I think gets really interesting to me. These guys are basically trying to use these examples to sort of, cover up the only real cover up is that Jake Tapper covered up the issue from the beginning. But here's Rufus Gifford saying, I was there. And the way he's describing that instance is the way I've seen multiple presidents. You walk into a room, when I go to the Christmas party, they'll say, Mr. President, Sean Spicer, and, guest or whatever, or his wife, whatever. But the idea that way Clooney described it, I actually think that Rufus is more right than anything. And Tapper is allowing that to happen as part of Tapper's cover up.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. Because when you think about it, we don't need really inside scoop as to these little moments that happen behind the scenes, because we had plenty of big moments like Joe Biden shaking hands with a ghost or calling for someone who was dead on video that we all saw with our own eyes. Right. But if you think about Tapper trying to write a book on that, he would just be writing about all of these things that he refused to talk about on the air, or that he shamed Lara Trump for bringing up and tried to, spin as her making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. So instead, he needs to find these little stories. I do have to say, though, to me, the George Clooney story, whether it's true, whether it's not, I think is so poetic, because these celebrities, these, limousine liberals, whatever you want to call them, they would have followed this man into World War III. He was on the cusp of setting the world on fire with all of his disasters, and they didn't care. They were loyal. They were in denial. They were doing these fundraisers. But if you don't know who George Clooney is, and he's at your fundraiser, that is where they draw the line. That is where yes. No more. This is such a celebrity moment. He's like, he's Mo Green. He's like, do you know who I am? I'm here.
That's right.
You can screw everything else up, but you don't know who I am? That's the line.
It's beautiful.
How dare you? How dare you? I'm George freaking Clooney. And
that's
I want
Julia
my table
Roberts.
by the window. No, it's insanity. The fact that this is the big reveal, that this is the big breaking news in this story, not recognizing George Clooney, which, by the way, I'm with you, Sean. I don't think that's actually what occurred here. Right. I think that he was in a receiving line. I've been in those lines too. But not recognizing George Clooney is a tiny little pimple on the giant Kim Kardashian-sized butt that was the scandal of Joe Biden's incompetence as president of the United States. And you hear Jake Tapper now. In fact, I think the subtitle of the book is Joe Biden's disastrous decision to run for reelection. No, the disastrous decision was not to run. The disastrous decision was that he was still president. Nowhere in this book does anybody actually challenge the fact that, clearly he should pull out of the race. How about getting out of the White House? How about actually stepping down from a job that you are not capable of doing? Because it's kind of an important job.
Okay. Bradley, unfortunately, we're at the point on a Thursday where we go over our winners and losers. You obviously, this is still an option. You're going to go first. Give me your winner and your loser.
Loser, Hakeem Jeffries. The reason Hakeem Jeffries is a loser is because one of his members got a little rebellious and tried to impeach President Donald Trump this week. That's Sri Tandahar. He was going to bring up this privileged motion to vote on an impeachment. It would have been saved by Republicans by tabling it. It would have been an easy thing, an easy win for Republicans to put in their cap. But the reason that Hakeem Jeffries is a loser in this is because his own members are giving away the entire game. He's really trying to keep everybody's Trump derangement syndrome down a little bit until the midterm elections. And then after that, we can impeach President Donald Trump 6 ways to Sunday. Every month, there's going to be another impeachment scandal. Impeach him for this, impeach him for that. That is the Democrats' real agenda. And Sri Tandahar is letting that out of the bag. My winner in this whole thing is President Joe Biden. He's a disaster. It's beautiful. He keeps going out there on The View and stuttering and losing trains of thought. And he is not going to let this book be an op to save the Democratic bench. That's what this is about. It is an op to remove culpability from Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris and all of the young rising stars in the Democratic Party and their complicity since 2020. They're going to try to paint two pictures of Joe Biden, one from 2020 and then one after 2023 when his decline got worse. He's the winner in this because he is not taking this lying down.
It's an interesting take on winner. Grace Curley, who do you got?
Okay, so my loser, I was going to say Jake Tapper, but since we already covered that, I'm going to say the 4 Congress people, I believe it was, last time I checked, who fell asleep yesterday during hearings, including Debbie Dingell, who last time we heard from her, she was very concerned that Trump was going to put her in an internment camp, and at least she's not losing sleep over it. She conked out. I'm talking like...
I saw it.
Defiant nap, arms crossed. I really think, Sean, if someone had gone over to her and tried to wake her up, she would have swatted their hand away.
Oh, yeah.
She's in a deep sleep. Those are losers. You should be able to stay awake at work. I don't care if it's a grueling, long session. You should be able to stay awake.
Tough
My
grader,
winner,
yeah,
Robert Hur, because people forget Special Counsel Robert Hur, when he came out with that report, he had to sit through grillings from Adam Schiff and all of these other people, and he was roundly smeared from the media as being a bad actor, or he's not a neurologist, he's this and he's that. He had his integrity really kind of run.
Good call. Good call.
He's feeling vindicated today, I'll tell you that much.
That's so I didn't know where you were going to end up, Grace Curley, and that I love how you, that wind up. We need more of that on the mound at Fenway, but that's good because I love how you ended up there. Larry O'Connor, you got to follow that.
Losers, every Democrat on Capitol Hill, because they're trying to stay on message this week, lying and saying Republicans are cutting Medicare.
We're not using
the problem is at every interview, they're asked about Biden and what they knew, and they pretend like, oh, we just want to go forward and not and talk about Medicare. Well, until they confront the big obvious lie that everyone on the planet knows they engaged in, then we're not going to buy their other lies. Because honestly, this whole Biden scandal is really about Democrats' veracity. There's no reason to believe them about Medicare.
And who's your winner?
My winner is everyone who bought my book about the 2024 presidential election, because I tell the truth about what the media did to cover up Biden's decline, about all the lies they said about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And of course, Trump won anyway. It's a book called Shameless Liars. It's available in hardcover.
We don't use that word, Larry.
Yeah, we don't use the word. But also, just so we're clear, because Larry's staring at the back of it, the best review on there is from me. It's a musky read.
He calls it a musty read. Musty.
Yeah. All right. My winner is the America First policy. I think that we went over there and for our foreign policy, we reset the paradigm. Trump made it very clear how we're going to handle our allies, our adversaries, our interests. I loved it. I don't think it got the attention it deserved. And I will riff off of this, Grace Curley, because I think that Tapper would have been my go-to loser, but it's actually even worse than that. Brooke Rollins calls out CNN because they literally are saying, they put this headline up about egg prices are down, but Donald Trump's been saying that they've been down for months and they're only down 12.7%. I mean, they literally doubled down on stupid in a way that I didn't think was possible. So for that reason, CNN, congratulations. You are my loser of the week. Thank you guys for spending your Thursday with us. Remember, it's always easy to sign up at SeanSpicer.com for my weekly newsletter. Tomorrow, Stephen K. Bannon joins us, and he will not disappoint. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.